you have a Roland EP90. That's the Roland EP90 keyboard. It's a digital keyboard. And what you want to do is turn the keyboard upside down, set it on someplace flat, try to protect your keys and things from getting scratched. And what you'll find at the bottom is about 29 screws. And you're going to have to remove all of the screws. No getting around it. To take the base plate off, you got to take out the screws. You'll be getting into some circuit boards, and I'll show you how to get those off and what to do with them as we progress on this. Now, when you're working on this Roland EP90 keyboard, it's kind of important when you start tearing into it, you draw or make a pictorial diagram, something to remind you of what you've done, what you've unplugged, and maybe the color codes in order that it goes back in. So that's the reason for that clipboard. Oh, incidentally, when you need the parts, these switches go bad in time. They might not go bad all at once, but chances are when the thing gets rather old, the keyboard gets old, you'll find that you'll learn that one switch or maybe a couple switches don't function properly. They don't work. So if you want to switch from piano over to electric piano or vibraphone or organ, sometimes it don't work that easy. And but you can't clean it. There's no cleaning to it. They're sealed switches. You can't get into it, and they just wear out. So if you're going to tear into it, you might as well why not at the same time just replace all 15 switches, because they're eventually going to go out on you. Now I'm going to try to get a close-up of this board. This is a switch assembly board, which I've removed. And you can see that I've already replaced 5 switches. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see the holes or the places where the other switches will go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 more switches that have to be put in on the board. Then you come over here, and that would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10. So you can see where they go. I like to use a soldering iron. You don't want to get one which is too heavy of an iron, but you want it to be able to melt the solder, and you have to use solder wicks or solder sucker, some way of taking the solder off. Being very careful on that. Oh, here is a package of the parts which I ordered. You can get these parts from Roland, and when I purchased these, they were $2.75 if you buy more than 10 at a time. If you want to order less than 10, I think it costs you, it would be more money. I use stuff like little bottles, like a pill bottle or something, for keeping the screws in. And you can label what you're doing there. And I was unable to get a maintenance manual for this Roland. It seems like Roland Corporation, they do not have the maintenance manual available since this keyboard's kind of old. But I do have my owner's manual. And that will give you a certain amount of information, at least. And the switch themselves, they have 2 wires on them. They're rather long. You can clean those before you put the new switch in. You want to clean it up pretty good. I took the old switches out first. It's important to remove these cables, unhook them, and remembering where they go back, because it's impractical. It's not good to try to work on this board unless you can get it off the keyboard, so you get it into a good working area where you can work on it easily. Here is a picture of the old switches. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but they're very small, And I'm going to discard those. No reason to keep them any longer. And again, if you get more than 10 at a time, the price is $2.75 each for at least 10 of them. So there you go. Okay, I don't know if you got the phone number or not for Roland Corporation USA, but there it is. Area 323-890-3700. Anyhow, the part number for those, they call them tack switches, as you notice, 01340290. So there's your code. And you see right here, that's a package of 10. I had one other package with 5 in them, which I already installed. I wanted to show you, and I didn't want to forget to tell you, before you turn the keyboard upside down, pull the knobs off the switchboard. See, from the front, you can take these knobs off. Now, for just to show you, I put the knobs back on. That just reminded me to tell you, hey, in order to get the board out, you got to pull those knobs off. And there is no set screws on those knobs. All you have to do simply is just pull them up and out. This little piece will come off when you pull the ribbon cable wires out. And then just be sure to make notation that you've got a gray wire over here and the rest are black. Go on there. And then once you get the ribbon cable back in place, then you can push that little piece down on it. Now, let's see. This jack board, I wanted to show you something here. 2 screws holds the jack board in place. There's one of the screws. I put it back in to show you. And there's the other screw over here on this end. And if those screws weren't in there, all you simply do to take that out, you'd have this thing, you just pull it out. And the board, again, is supported by those 2 screws. Again, you don't, once you get this keyboard upside down and you start taking stuff out, you don't want to put it right side up with things partly disassembled. Okay, after completing all these switches installed on the switchboard, I decided to check the diodes by each switch. You see, as an example, there's D101, goes over to D104. Check them with an ohmmeter, check for forward continuity, and then reverse. You shouldn't have anything. If in case it looks shorted, the diode don't test right, then those diodes would have to be replaced. I didn't have any trouble on this installation, and as you notice, as I look over the switchboard, you can see the switches are in place. On this other board, which is the jack board, I failed to mention earlier that if you look, get my pencil here, if you check this out, you see this little solid piece of wire. Well, that's to hold some of these wires in place. So as you notice, that we'll go over to that point, but that just keeps the wires out of the way of other things, and so thought I'd show you that. Well, we're getting close to the final assembly. After taking some boards out, like the jack board and the switchboard and stuff, and remember we had that problem with the tone switches, so we replaced those. Now I wanted to bring to your attention, in addition to those 2 screws I showed you on the jack board, which I showed were out here, you've got several more, but any time there's a little screw in there which is actually holding this board up, And whatever you remove, be sure to put it back when you assemble it again. Okay, let's see, there we go. There's a screw there. And there's one right there. It has to come out when you're going to take the board out, which we just put back in, I'll have you know. That one there, and then we got one up here. Right there. Okay. Now, something else I wanted to let you know. You see this switchboard, which is the bottom green board down here. There's screws which have to go back on. This is where we got them out of. So there's one of the screws. Come over here. There's another screw on the switchboard. And there's a third one. And then we keep going on and on. There's one right over here. And then one past that point. And in addition to those, I want you to see, I wanted to show you, kind of hard to see this right here. Yeah. There are screws that have to be removed and put back in. I got the end of the pencil on one of them. You notice how that's actually kind of offset under where that chrome piece is, or that metal piece on top. So if you have a magnetic screwdriver, I strongly advise you to use a magnetic screwdriver when you're dealing with those screws. And then you have them right through there. Okay, that's the EP90, Echo Papa 90 Roland keyboard. It's been a good one through the years. It's had a beautiful tone to it. But I got in the habit of wanting to change from the regular piano over to vibraphone or violin and stuff. And when those switches get bad, which from age, then several of them go out, and it wouldn't be much longer than all of them would fail. So I replaced all 15 of them. And any questions, just reply, and maybe I can help you on it. Well, we're getting very close to time to put the back cover in place and securing that with the 29 screws. You notice we've continuously kept this keyboard upside down. And this is the side we'd be working on anyway, as you notice. Now, the switchboard is a little tricky to get in place. What's important is that you line up the shafts of where the knobs go on the opposite side. And remember I talked to you earlier about this ribbon cable? Let me show you here. There is that connector on that ribbon cable, and just be careful taking that out, and that goes in a certain way. It's all closed up, and the switches, those tone switches, have been replaced. So I'm going to play something now, and he'll probably go down with on the keyboard here. This is piano 2 I'm on. Let's try another button, electric piano. Now I'm going to go over to vibraphone, just barely touching it. There, oh, what a beautiful deal. See, those buttons were so worn out, those switches were so far gone, I had to press real hard on the buttons to get any results. But now you just barely touch it. Now we'll try organ sound. And then let's try 2 at once. Let's go piano and, for instance, piano and strings. So we'll do those 2. Let's try choir. Oh, I was going to try. Let's see. Let me see. There's harpsichord. Let's try piano one and choir. See what that sounds like. So on. Well, anyway, it shows you that at least it passed the smoke test. No smoke's coming up.